The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast, now streaming on all major podcast platforms. A Till Valhalla Project ambassador. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a fireside chat, Men of Faith. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And be sure to go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we got going on there. Click on that merchandise tab, go in there and get you a cool hat, a shirt. There's all kinds of goodies in there, but help support us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project. They're doing amazing things. If you don't know anything about that organization, please go to their website. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. Check them out, and if there's any way you can help them, please do so.
Ton Tavern, birthplace of the Corps. We as Marines hold this history close to our hearts. Wouldn't it be spectacular if the establishment was born again? The Ton Legacy Foundation, a nonprofit 501c3, is taking the task and is looking to the Marines to once again save the day. Help the Lost Art podcast in raising funds to help get the Ton built once again, only 100 yards from the original establishment in Philadelphia. We are looking for Marines to donate $25, representing the upcoming 250th birthday of the Corps. Spread the message and help establish the Ton, a place for Marine brethren to gather and remember our historic beginning. Go to the Lost Art GoFundMe page and donate today. The Ton Legacy Foundation, reestablishing our birthplace.
All right, with that, I got some of the crew here, so we'll just go around. Mark, how you doing?
I'm outstanding, Andrew. Beautiful day here in Southern California, except we had a lot of clouds come in. We got a little rain kind of threatening us, but it is our start of our rainy season. So, except for the politicians, taxes, prices, and extreme liberals, California would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll watch out for the governor tonight. I sent out a team to try to combat his craziness out there for you. So hopefully we don't lose you.
Good.
Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I can't complain, Andrew.
Nice. All right. Got
Doing
it.
good.
Sweet, short, to the point. I like it. Okay. Aaron, how are you?
Same thing. Can't complain. Long weekend coming up.
Yeah.
Lots of things to be thankful for. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. The good long weekend. It was a four-day weekend is that right? For
Well,
most people?
the contractor, we actually get Friday off on this one. We did not get Veterans Day.
Really?
But when I started the job, because I started after September 1st, I received one, what they call floating holiday. Now, the next year, they will not have floating holidays. We'll get every holiday that the government gets.
Oh, wow.
So
that's nice.
I've decided on floating holiday tomorrow. I'll go ahead and use it up. I don't plan on doing anything around Christmas and New Year's, so I'll just take my days that I get. Usually it's not busy around that time anyway, so
yeah.
But
right on.
We cook dinner over here and all that, so I know the wife's
very nice.
The wife's gonna want some. I was like, I'll just take the day off.
Yeah.
Take the day from the work I get paid for. Get paid at home too, with love and all that.
That's right.
But my income that I have to pay my bills with, if not, I'll go to jail, and my family will be without home. So,
yeah,
what we're going to discuss.
Yeah. True. Speaking of that, well, we can jump in. I'll read, this was the first lesson or whatever that I sent out, but lesson 1, responsibility and leadership. Men are looked at to be the leader and carry responsibility, whether it's in your home, at work, or at church. In these positions, the Bible makes it clear that you should show strength, faith, and discernment, love, sacrifice, and patience in all the tough decisions that you have to make. This is the first verse. It says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong." That's 1 Corinthians 16:13. The next verse, "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." That's Ephesians 5:25. I said that wrong. I can't even say it. Say Ephesians. I can't. Ephesians. Golly, why could I not get that out? All right, my bad. All right, and then what's that?
Stayed in Tennessee and Arkansas too long.
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. The third verse, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." Again, Ephesians 6:4. I got it right that time, though. Yeah, so responsibility and leadership. I think those are two incredibly important things for men. All too often, responsibility, a lot of men, they kind of push it off. They don't want to take that responsibility. It's too much, whatever the case is. And it's hard, to always be the one in, the man of the house or be in charge and stuff like that. But it is something that we are tasked to do by God. What do you guys see?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and contribute here. Even though, and you heard me say this during my retirement, even though I had, working women that I grew up around, strong, working women, I was taught that the man is to take responsibility and be the leader of the house in everything he does. There were some great examples and then some not so great examples. There's a couple of things there. Patience and discernment is one of the as human beings lack a lot of, especially myself. Especially when it comes to judging, right?
Oh yeah.
And the patience, especially. A lot of things that coming back. We're quick to react instead of being pro. Even as Marines, we're taught to be proactive, right? But we can make the correct judgment when the time comes. But it's I may have said this, or I've said this to somebody. It's funny how a lot of the things that the scripture teaches us and God wants us to do is we're taught as Marines, right? And I think
absolutely
brought up in discussion with Linwood, but I mean, be the leader, right? Don't set back and let other people come into your family and make decisions for you, or set back and well, we all know that the wives are going to make decisions, right?
That is true. Yeah.
Be a part of that, right? Love your wife as Christ would, right? So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think the big thing, like you're saying, Andrew, is Andrew and Aaron. It in today's world, it's hard because it's almost like there's so much negativity out there against, just men being men. And it's hard it's sad to look at, younger men, and a lot of these, young men don't have role models. Their role models are celebrities or football players, or, they don't have somebody to, snatch them up when they need snatched up and, to sit down and talk to. But and a big side of it too is they don't have people that they can respect, but they don't get any respect in return, and they don't get that love that they need at that point. And, it's hard and sometimes, and it's one thing we all face and we deal with, but, I believe, reading this, it all hits home, and it's all stuff I've heard in the past. But, like you were saying, Aaron, we all know our wives are going to make decisions, and that's how it should be. But I think we as men should, we need to be in that position where, we set the example. This is the baseline of where everything goes. A loving home, and parents that nurture their kids, parents that discipline their kids. I mean, I think that's the key to the household, in my personal opinion. But it's also the key to us as human beings. I think the world would be a lot better place. And I've talked with a couple of my employees, especially here in Southwest Georgia. Like he said, well, I grew up with a father and a mother. I had 6 brothers and sisters, him included. His mother ran the house. She ruled the roost. But like he said, but his father was the person who went out and worked and farmed all day. But when he came home, that was the example. This is the example of what you as young men are going to be. And he said, I always had it in my life. He said, I lost my mother when I was younger. And he said, he said he lost his father when he was 50, but his mother passed away when she was 38.
Oh, wow.
But he said, my father still maintained that, that encouragement as a parent. This is the example. Mm-hmm. This is what, this is how you're supposed to act like as a man. You're not going to go out there and act like a fool and embarrass this family and embarrass yourself, and there was consequences, like he said, to your actions. In today's world, he said, now a lot of these young kids don't have that. They don't have somebody to pull them aside, or, when they need a good smack on the behind. I'm not saying beat, but, discipline. Yeah. Understand there's consequences to your actions. And a lot of these kids now look at it, like I said, it may be a bad way to say it, but it's like they're almost worshiping false gods and, celebrities. And, I'm not saying every celebrity's bad. I'm not saying every professional football player, basketball player, whatever's bad. But, that's what they see as young men, because they don't have a father in their life.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's something Al's talked to me a lot about. He said that's the biggest problem with, he said, I don't know the rest of the country. He said, I only know Southwest Georgia. And he said, I'm telling you, that's, and it shouldn't matter skin color for me to tell you guys this, but, he's a black man, and that's his personal opinion. He said, especially in a black family, there has to be a father there for those kids.
Right.
And it shouldn't matter skin color, but, to him, he made it a point to tell me that. So,
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the father figure is so important in everything. Yeah. Whether you're raising boys or girls, obviously if you're raising boys to become men, you want to set the example, you want to teach them the right thing. But even raising girls, you got to raise them and teach them how they're supposed to be treated and things like that by other men and stuff like that.
It's to echo what all of you just said. It all started back in the Garden of Eden when Adam was allowed himself to be deceived by his wife, by Eve. God told Adam. He didn't tell Eve not to eat the fruit off that tree. He told Adam.
Mm-hmm.
And actually he told man, because they didn't have names until they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Adam means Adamize is the earth. But when Adam allowed himself to be deceived by Eve, and then they heard God walking in the garden, so they hid. They hid because they were embarrassed, because they were naked. And God said, well, who told you they were naked? Then he said, oh, you ate from the tree. And then what did Adam do? First thing, he threw Eve under the bus. He didn't even take responsibility. He, and Andrew, you heard me say that countless times. Accountability is the cornerstone of leadership. And God
Yep.
put man on this earth to be the head, to be the lead. And Adam was the first one to capitulate to the woman and didn't take responsibility. All he had, and that caused death to enter into human life. And all it had to do was for Adam to take responsibility for Eve doing that. And
Yeah.
uh, and just throughout history, and I think Aaron, you said something about there's all the little instructions in the Bible, and there's an old saying that says Bible means basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Oh, that's
Because
good. Yeah.
there's so much, like I said, so much leadership, so much life lessons in the Bible. It tells you how you're supposed to perform. It tells a man how he's supposed to perform, and it's some of the people I listen to on and study with, it tells them every man will be held accountable for their leadership
Hmm.
and how they lead their families and how they lead their children. And it's one of those things as you look back and I go, oh shit, I better step up my game and try to figure out how I failed at that time
Yeah.
and how I can try to make up for it by counseling them now. You have authority over your children until a male is 18 years old and until a woman is married or enters a type of religious society.
Yeah.
So you have authority over them, spiritual authority, and you will be held accountable. And you have spiritual authority over your wife also. And you will, like I said, God will hold you accountable for uh, for how you do that. And the lessons are there in the Bible. It's there, and we have to step up, take responsibility, be held accountable, uh, and it just says like where it says discipline. Discipline means to teach, to train, and
Right.
use regulations, use punishment as a source to correct and instill the appropriate behavior that is expected. And just as you said, the role models, you know, there used to be, all the groups, the Elks Lodges, the Moose Lodge, the
Hmm.
Eagles. With the Catholic Church, there's the Knights of Columbus,
Hmm.
where you enter as a young man, and every week or every other week or whatever, you go to a meeting and you're mingling with these older men who are uh, had life relationships. They've raised their children. They're business owners or they're supervisors at their businesses, where young men can look up to other men, especially, like I said, if you've lost a father and you don't have that father figure, you have another mature man to uh, to look up to. And we used to tell them, Andrew, remember how we used to tell them? Sometimes those recruits coming into boot camp, that's going to be the first positive role model that they've ever had in their life.
Very true.
So
Yeah.
they need to be trained. They need to be disciplined, but they don't need to be abused. They probably already had that for
Hmm.
up teen years of their life.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
And every human being will live up to whatever standards they're held to and led by. And just as you were saying, Andrew, about raising daughters, uh, a woman is born with honor, but a man has to earn his honor.
Mm.
That's why a man has to go out there and work and be taught how to work and taught responsibility and accountability.
Yeah. Wow, that was good. That was really good. Speaking of like generationally speaking, I bring this up, Mark, because you're a little older than us, but or a little older than me. What have you seen generationally speaking when it comes to men and responsibility, leadership, those types of things?
Well, I've definitely seen, there's definitely been uh, a change in the way discipline is instilled.
Hmm.
Like probably like when we were growing up, you did what you told immediately, or you got, corporal punishment. You got a physical type of punishment.
Right.
And like when I was growing up, it didn't matter if you were in the store, if you were in church, if you were out in the broad daylight, you were going to be
Yeah.
disciplined and you were going to be corrected and punished right there on the spot. But nowadays, you get someone call the cops on you.
Yeah.
So what I've seen is, and then there is yes, a woman is running that household, but it is against, it's against God's nature for a woman to try to hold authority over her husband.
Yeah.
They don't have authority. The man is the head of the household, just as Jesus is the head of the church, because the church is just a reflection of the family. And that's how God set it up. He didn't make Eve first and make Adam out of her rib. It was the other way around, because man
Right.
is the head of the family and has to exert that proper leadership, not overbearing tyrantism, but proper leadership.
Yeah. Wow. Man, look at there. Mark, you should have been a preacher. You're doing really good. Uh, so, as I am learning, right, I started this fatherhood thing a little late in life. So I've still got young kids, and sometimes it's difficult, as you're going through, because there's so much stuff that they see nowadays. I mean, it's ridiculous. You turn on the TV and it's not like it used to be, man. They can see anything and everything. Which is, it's hard to navigate that, I guess I should say. But how do we as men stay true to allowing them to see things that, maybe not everything that all their peers are seeing, but enough to be able to get by with it. My dogs are fighting. Uh, uh, but but then also be able to say, no, we're not going to do this, right? You're not going to go this far, whatever the case may be. And I know a lot of younger guys have a hard time with that, as they're dealing with their children and stuff.
But you said it, Andrew. You listen to them, you watch what they have observed, but then you tell them it's straight up
Yeah.
wrong. I don't care. It's not just because someone else was doing it doesn't make it right. So you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a line that my kids have thrown back at me now that our son's 27, our daughter's 23, and over the years, even when I got older, when they were younger, I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Well, so and so is doing, this." I was like, "Well, we're not so and so. We are not so and so. That we do not do that." It was. I don't know. It must have been when we went out to my son's graduation in June out in Washington State. There was I don't even remember what the scenario was now. And I said, well, everybody else is doing it. Just like that. And my son looked at me and goes, Dad, we're not everybody else. My father-in-law was standing there and everybody, and I looked at him, I said, you were correct, son. It's like, okay, thank you. And of course, then my wife looked at me and she goes, see, he did listen to stuff you would tell him. I was like, yeah, it took long enough for me to finally realize that.
I'm in I don't know if they realize it. I haven't realized it yet. I'm in that phase still. So
they listen. They don't show you that they're listening when they're young.
Yeah. They don't want you to know that they're actually paying attention to everything you do.
Mm-hmm. Said, Mike, that you realize it, or other people realize it, especially when they get older. Kind of the way, I helped raise my stepdaughter. She now her children in a very similar fashion. And my wife's like, it's all because of you. I said, but she's teaching discipline.
I love it. I love it.
Had it when she was younger, but she understands why it's needed now.
Yeah, for sure.
Going back to that, Andrew, about telling them, it's like the old saying, one man with courage makes the majority. You have to tell them, and you said, hey, yeah, it might not be popular, it might not be the in thing, but it is the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
And when they're of age, and like I said, you have authority over your daughters until they're married or in some type of religious organization. So and as a man, as for males, like until they're 18 years old, you have a spiritual authority over them, and it is your duty to exert that authority and continue to communicate.
Yeah, that's very
And
good.
listening is a part of it, is a big part of it also. Listening to where they're coming from, what they're being exposed to, and everything.
That's something that's incredibly difficult for men to do.
For what? Listen?
Yeah.
Listen.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it is, because at least how I grew up it was almost like it was a vulnerability. Yeah, as far as like my dad or something like that. He wasn't somebody I could go and talk to. Never was. It wasn't until I got back from Iraq the second time I was actually able to sit down with him at 30 some years old and talk to him.
Yeah.
And he just started talking to me about stuff. I'm like, Dad, where the hell was all this my whole life? He goes, I wasn't. He said, when you were a kid out doing stupid crap, he said, I wasn't your friend. He said, I was your father. He said, I'm not what he said, that wasn't my job to be your friend, to be your buddy. Or I was like, well, it's not that. It was just, I would have been nice to be able to come and talk to you. And he said, did I ever tell you couldn't come and talk to me? I was like, no, I just never felt that I could.
Yeah.
And he even said, well, I guess, he flat out said, he goes, well, I guess that's my fault and I failed in that area. But he said, I see you don't do that with your own kids. I said, what do you mean? He said, I actually see where you talk to your kids. And he said, your kids will come to you and talk to you about stuff. And, then I tell them, well, this or that, or, this is my opinion, or what do you think is the right thing? What do you think?
Yeah.
And at that point, and he told me that later on in life, that, after he was at that point with dementia setting in, and he would have fleeting moments where he was himself and then didn't know what happened 2 seconds ago. But he was talking to me about that he said, where I failed, he said, I think you achieved. He said, you learned from my failures, is what he said. And that's one thing I hope with my kids, or at least my son, well, my daughter too. But, I know I've failed in areas. I can stand here right now and tell you I did.
Yeah.
But, I'd like to think that, we raised 2 good kids. They weren't going out and getting in trouble. They weren't out running with friends. We knew friends of ours that, when our kids were in school, like our daughter especially, 16, 17-year-old girls were allowed to go on spring break to Panama City Beach by themselves. Who in their right of mind allows that?
Not this
in
guy.
my opinion, it's not. I see Aaron's not saying anything because, so my daughter went to spring break. I'm joking.
I couldn't find the mute button. No, not under the age of 18.
No, well, even then, that's what that was always what I got is nothing good happens after midnight. That's what I was always told, and I don't care. You could be there could be 6 or 7 girls these teenage girls that I know that have been in my house, that have slept over here, and I know they're all probably good. But they're gonna, just like a typical teenager, they're gonna be okay. Well, let's see where we can test the limits or what we can do. It's not them I was worried about. It's the idiots like me when I was that age. This is what bothered me. And our daughter was always pretty good, because all of a sudden a mother or someone would text, one of these other girls' mothers would text Kelly and said, "Why can't Abby go to Panama City with the girls? So-and-so's mother said she's going to be there. She's renting the townhome or the beach house or something like that." And it's okay, well, I don't trust so-and-so's mother, first of all. But, Kelly's like, Abby never even said anything to us about it. And we would literally ask her in the kitchen. We're like, hey, are all those girls going down? And she goes, yeah. She goes, you never said anything about it? You never asked? And she goes, no. We're like, why? And she said, well, first of all, I didn't. First of all, I knew you were going to tell me no.
Yeah.
And she said, second of all, I already knew that I didn't want to be a part of that, because I didn't want to get into a situation that was going to affect me for the rest of my life. And I'll never forget the day she said that. And I was like, but
it's one of those proud dad moments, right?
Now, our son has done some couple dumb things, but nothing that was like jail time or anything like that. It was more of a smacking him up back of the head. I'm like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
But it was no different than me. But I guess that's where we as boys going, become men. We have to, unfortunately, that's what I told my wife. We've all had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And you can only guide and push in a certain direction so much, and then finally it's going to be like, well, just let me burn myself, Dad. Okay.
Well,
yeah. Learning from experience is how we usually learn.
It goes back to the accountability thing, Mike. So, those boys that get into mischief, they end up becoming men that get into trouble because a man holding them accountable. You look at majority of them, they all love their mama, right? But mama was the one nurturing, wasn't disciplining them when they were young and getting into that trouble. I would say probably 99% of them. Now you have those, very few small percentage that, their parents try to raise them right. And, they end up going out there and then they don't have the self-discipline when they become teenagers and young adults to say, you know what, I was taught better than that. I don't need to do that. And again, that's a small percentage, but, I think the whole, the last one there about don't be quick to anger your children, because that's a lot of it. Mm-hmm. The father either leaves or is, very rarely a part of the kid's life and internally. And as someone who I'm kind of that person, like I said, there was father figures as I was coming up. I had a couple of stepdads, some were good, some were bad. Some men set good examples, some men set bad examples. So, I was smart and intelligent enough to learn what was right and good from the good ones and what was bad from the bad ones. But, even to this day, I can still feel some anger that my biological father was not in the picture when I was growing up as a kid. So I could have easily been a statistic,
Yeah.
I just, I guess I was, I'm thankful and I'm blessed and fortunate enough that I did have those certain father figures that were like, hey, put a smack on my bottom whenever I was acting up and doing wrong,
Yeah.
That, for the most part, I didn't get it as much as some of the other kids did, because I typically learned the first one didn't feel good, so I didn't want to.
I understand that. One of the best sounds ever is your dad pulling his belt out from his loops and then smacking it, saying, "Come here, boy." And you're like, "Oh man, here we go." Yeah, that was horrible.
So quick story here. I had an uncle that had a whip.
Oh my God.
He would crack that whip and we would be like, "Woo, nope."
That's funny. My dad, one time, this only happened once, and he didn't have his belt on. I think he had overalls on. And he was like, "Go out there and get me a switch."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay. So I go out and I had to pick out the switch, and there's a thorn bush. And I was like, there ain't no way he's going to spank me with this. Mm-hmm. So I break off a branch of that with the thorns on it. And I brought it back to him smiling. I said, "Here you go, Dad." And he's like, "Boy, you shouldn't have done that." And he grabbed that thing and commenced to wear my butt out. Yeah, I learned a lesson there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Tried to get the smaller one because it won't hurt as bad. Oh,
yeah. That doesn't work either. Oh, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got one good butt beating from my dad. It was the one and only time that he ever had to do it. And from that point on, all he did was look at me. Guys.
Yeah.
He would literally just look at me, and I was like, "I'm sorry." There was no ever, and he wasn't any bigger than I am. It wasn't like he was some big intimidating individual, but it was just, for me, it was the fear that it was knowing that I had disappointed him.
Oh yeah.
That was always my thing. It was like, man, I let Dad down. But then he would go into silent mode and not talk to me for a couple of days. And that was even worse, the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
I was like, he'd be leaving for work. I'm like, bye, Dad. And he just turned to look at me and just walk out the door, and I was like,
oh.
But
wow. Yeah.
Depending on what time of year it was, he would do that. And then all of a sudden, guys, stop. Sorry. But then, that'd be like on a Monday, and all of a sudden, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday, be Saturday morning. He'd come up there and open the bedroom door and say, walk over, open the curtains up. He goes, get your fishing pole. We're going fishing. I'm like, okay. It's like, Dad's not mad at me
anymore. Oh, that's funny. I can't remember who mentioned it a while ago, but the Marine Corps is set up and a lot based off, in my opinion, biblical principles. But when you look at leadership in the Marine Corps and the father figure and those types of things, it really is set up that way. And even in the council, or in the the Marine Corps order for counseling, it says that you be a mentor, like a father to a son, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. It's very impressive how the Marine Corps has got it set up. I don't know all the other branches of service. I'm sure it's similar, but Marine Corps definitely has it going on there. Now, did you guys, as you were kind of growing up in the Marine Corps, look at your leaders as kind of a father figure as well?
There was definitely some of them, like not all of them, but you knew him, Andrew, Colonel Kelly, my mentor. That guy was, what a phenomenal leader figure, father figure, just someone you'd want to, emulate.
Right.
Both, in the Corps and after the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Well, Mark, you're one of those guys for me. I got to spend a little bit of time with you, and then you've made an impression on me. So,
thank you.
What about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I've got one. He's another retired master sergeant. I had several up until I had served with him. Guys that, like Mark just said, you emulate them. To the best of your ability. And you're your own person, and you have your own kind of character and principles and traits that you as a person bring along. But you see the things that they do to, number one, to be a leader and to get troops to react, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get them to do the things that they need to do. But I had one whenever I came back in the Marine Corps, and I got promoted to staff sergeant. Actually, no, I hadn't even been selected yet. I was still a sergeant. He was a master sergeant, and he came to us there at 2MEF, and his first name's Aaron. My first name's Aaron. So almost immediately it was like senior and junior. But then it like he would literally, as a leader, now that I think back, I didn't think about it at the time, but now that you think back about it, and then you came up through the ranks, you're like, holy crap. Like he was mentoring like a father and son.
Yeah.
And you don't realize, even after I left that unit and continued my career through other units, and he ended up retiring, even nowadays, he'll still, when hurricane was coming through, he was blowing my phone up. Hey, don't be an idiot. Stay safe. Get out of the way if you can, and still continue and all that stuff, But
yeah, for sure. I would, another mentor and father figure that I had was Mike. He may not think that, but he was. He was definitely a father figure. I was a sergeant. He's a gunny. He was.
He had to crack, didn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure. Cracked a couple of whips. Yeah, he let me know.
Yeah, I had to get the attitude out of you.
I don't know if you ever succeeded at that.
No, I didn't. You just learned how to hide it and make sure no one saw it.
Yeah. Know when to bring it out.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. What about you, Mike?
I do remember saying that to you a couple times. I think it was almost like you were my kid, and I had to pull you off to the side somewhere. It was after you got off a shift or something, and I was like, "Damn it, Cox! You know you're better than this, right? You know you are better than this." And you sit there looking at me like, "Just going to restart." I'm like, there was more words used, adjectives, thrown in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are better than this. But that was I think it was, he retired as a gunny, but it was Joe Scott. He was a staff sergeant, my first duty station. But he was kind of that person for me that, he kind of set the example of what I thought. He didn't go around yelling and screaming at everybody day in and day out. But, when he was around, he was always looking and people always looked up to him. But he would actually pull you off to the side. He was 6'4", but he had spent probably the majority of his career in Okinawa. So he was like a karate or jiu-jitsu trainer, so he taught on base there at 29 pounds and that. But he could literally stand look like Jean-Claude Van Damme, he'd stand and put his foot up right against the side of your head or something like that. It was just how flexible he was, and he had these long legs, and he could kick over top of you, somebody was 6 foot over their head, but he would actually pull you off to the side, and he'd tell you when you were screwing up, but he didn't do it in a condescending way. And that's one thing he always talked about was, he said, circumstances dictate how you have to react to a situation.
Mm.
Sometimes you got to come out just hollering and screaming, because we don't have time to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to understand this. You got to understand it now. Like if you're in a combat setting or something, we don't have time to play. He said, but when you have the ability to grab a Marine and pull him off to the side and just talk to him and find out, he said, you may find out there's something else going on that's causing him to act that way. And he said, that's why they need, he said, know your Marines, talk to them. He said, be intimidating, but he said, don't be unapproachable.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a tough line to walk.
Well, it's a tough line in anything in life.
Yeah.
That's what my wife always tells everybody. She goes, because everybody, I'm not the same body that I was 15, 20 years ago. But everybody's like, everybody says I have resting, bee face. I never smile. I never, my wife's like, well, everybody's just intimidated by you. And I'm like, why? I didn't do anything to them. She said, it's just how you act. She said, you don't. And that's why this podcast is actually interesting for me, that I'll actually get up here and talk, because I don't usually do that.
Yeah, I think it's good.
To me, it's a safe space that I can actually talk to like-minded people that actually can hear me and understand, and not just look at me like I don't understand a word you just said.
Yeah.
And the other side of it too is, and it's terrible to say, and I've said it before, and I say it jokingly, but I mean it. I just don't like people in general, because I get tired of their stupidity, the ignorance. We're all judgmental, but the judgmental aspect of most people.
Yeah.
It goes, it's a t-shirt I wear, you have no idea what the person in front of you is going through, or things like that. So
that's it.
I just typically don't try to, I'm just not a socialite. My wife is, but I'm not. But sorry, Aaron.
No. I was just I'm agreeing with you, because, again, I'm in similar ways, but that's that discernment that I struggle with. And it's like,
absolutely,
and in a way, I kind of have the same thing. When I'm in public, I've got my guard up, especially, crowded places. And it's, watching people, it's like, what are these people going to do? And I shouldn't do that all the time, because you can, after a certain age, you can kind of read people. If there's people that are going to be, let's say,
aggressive,
aggressive or less than friendly people, you can come in ahead of time.
Yeah, just a threat in general.
Right, exactly. There's always going to be those, I guess you should say, shady people that you don't know what they're doing or thinking. And so that's, kind of earlier I was going to bring up, we were talking about, letting our kids go, especially daughters, out to places and stuff like that. And it's like, you just can't trust people anymore. And I'll fill y'all in later, but, a guy right down the road from me, and that I work with, just got arrested last Saturday for some pretty bad stuff. And it's like, you never would have thought.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Anything's possible in these days, especially. So,
as Mark knows, it's that 1%.
That's right.
It's that 1% of the population that ruins it for everybody else. We're all human and we're all going to make mistakes, but it's just the nature of that 1%.
True.
They just don't care.
There's evil out there. There's people being influenced by evil forces, and they don't have the will or the training or the faith to overcome it, and they act on their emotions.
Oh yeah.
And, yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, does anybody, do you all want to have anything before we close this one out? Do you have anything to say? Anything you want to leave everybody with? I would say words of wisdom, but it's not that.
Yeah.
But it might be. I don't know.
Actually, probably more beneficial here than.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Good words of wisdom. Obviously, there's no greater wisdom than the good book, right? Than the book. And you hit it earlier. It's a guideline to life. And what was that basic instruction before leaving Earth? It's how to be and how to act, amongst, your number one, your family, right? And then in society. And I think for everyone watching, if we can just, be a little bit better. Especially myself, because I was raised in it, and, you get so far away from it that you just tend to you don't forget, right? Because I don't think you could ever forget, but Mark said it earlier, the devil's everywhere. And the first chance he gets to sway you to do evil things, he will do it.
We just get complacent. That's the biggest thing in life, is we just get complacent in life, period. So
yeah, very true. Good point. Mark, you got anything?
Just like what we're saying, you don't get complacent. Complacency kills. We heard that how many times in the Marine Corps, especially in a combat environment. But it is so true. If you let those demonic ideas that are trying to influence your imagination, if you act upon them, if you don't consciously and specifically use our Lord's name to get rid of them, to get rid of those thoughts, if you act on them, it's going to lead you down. It's going to make you make some poor decisions, and all decisions are followed by consequences, and you're going to be held accountable for those consequences, either in this life or after. And it's better to have them be held accountable for them this life than held accountable for them later, because later's not good if you're being held accountable in the wrong way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, does any of you three want to lead us? Not lead us. Do a prayer as we take off here. I didn't know how to say that. If not, I can. But
So,
All right, Mark's good. I think Aaron, you did it before, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. You have? Mike, you want to do one? Have you done one before?
No, I don't. I don't know that I have one to give right now. So I don't
All
mean it in
right.
a bad way. I'm just being honest with you.
Oh, you're good. You're good. All right, I'll do a prayer. Lord, thank you for the fellowship tonight. Thank you for the fine men that you put here in front of me and good examples of what it is to be a man. And just as we go forth this week and we do different things, just allow us to be able to show in our actions how we're supposed to act and what we're supposed to do and be that example for everyone else that's out there. And just thank you for this time that I've been able to spend with my brothers in Christ. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mhm.
You guys rock. Thank you. I appreciate it. To all the listeners, don't forget, if you are struggling, you need help, anything like that, you can always dial 988, press option 1. You can also text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. The crew cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, then reach out to your buddies that you served with and ask them how they're doing. And if they're needing a helping hand, please give them that helping hand. I was having a hard time getting through that because I have taps going on in the background here on the bass here. That's pretty crazy. Sorry, totally got off track. Oh yeah, and we are raising money to help with to help with the Ton Legacy Foundation and reestablishing the Marine Corps birthplace, Ton Tavern. So they're going to be calling it the Ton. Anyways, you can go follow us and go to the GoFundMe page. And we're asking $25 for the upcoming 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. But yeah, help donate, help them guys out. It'll be good. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your thoughts.